Hello, I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. Today I'm speaking with Dima Prisikar. He is the general manager of Outs, a company which is based in Oslo, Norway. Hello, Mr. Prisikar. Welcome to UATV.
Hello, Alex. Thank you for having me.
What exactly does Outs do, and specifically with regard to its business, what it does in Ukraine?
Well, what we do is that we offer data solutions like data management, data analytics. We also offer nearshoring solutions for Scandinavian growing companies, including startups. And another thing that we do is that we do financial consulting, meaning that we help growing companies to get the financing that they need throughout different stages of their growing phases, actually. And what we do in Ukraine is that we use some of the resources that, in a way, that are basically, these are our major resources. And we use Scandinavian resources for the architecture of the solutions that we offer for our clients. And then we involve the resources that are in Ukraine, basically. That's what we do. And so far it has been quite an interesting journey, I'd say.
So you provide IT solutions for individuals, companies, enterprises.
Exactly. And we specifically concentrate on growing businesses located in the Nordic countries, which is Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland.
What does nearshoring mean? Because I think a lot of people know what outsourcing is, or outshoring. What does nearshoring mean?
Well, nearshoring is basically when you outsource some of your business processes to a place which is located not farther than say 2 hours of the time difference. Basically, Ukraine is 1 hour ahead of Norway, and which pretty much facilitates what we're doing, because one of the biggest concerns of the companies that turn to outsourcing businesses for help is that you have people that sit somewhere far away with up to 9, sometimes 11 of hours of time difference, and frankly speaking, this bothers a lot.
So instead of a Norwegian company outsourcing to India or Philippines, they're very close. They're in Ukraine 2 hours away.
Yeah, it's pretty much 1 hour away.
Okay. Let me ask you, how would you describe, what are the problems, challenges, advantages that customers come to you with, that you even notice, as far as using IT developers, IT work in Ukraine?
Well, let me ask you the question just to specify it. You mean you're asking about the challenges that our clients face in general, or the challenges that are in particular related to using IT specialists from Ukraine?
Particularly related to IT specialists in Ukraine, and advantages, not just challenges.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I would say that one of the biggest problems that probably most of the people that work from Ukraine have is the English literacy. And in comparison to, for example, Scandinavian countries where everybody speaks English perfectly, this might be one of the challenges, frankly speaking. Another way is that I would go into maybe like the difference of cultures and mentality. And it's pretty much related to the differences that there are between how things go in Norway and how things go in Ukraine. For example, how people run businesses. One of the biggest things that pretty much pops up in my mind when I'm thinking about it is that in Norway, people really like rules. They really appreciate them. And one of the challenges is that they don't really speak about the rules. So you're on your own. You have to figure out those rules on your own. And it's a small community, which means that you don't really have that many opportunities for, making errors and not being noticed at all. People talk to each other all the time. Well, Ukraine, on the other hand, has a totally opposite attitude to rules for some reasons. And this could be a good side, like an advantage, so that, for example, if you need to get a creative technical solution, this really helps to think out of the box. However, on the other hand, it's not that good for business because people really like to know the rules and basically, to play by them. And this is probably one of the challenges that people generally face when they work with Ukraine from Scandinavia, at least to my mind.
What are some of the advantages?
Well, one of the advantages, as I've mentioned, is that people are more creative here. And one of the things that we particularly have figured out, and we try to use this to our benefit, is that the open source solutions that the Ukrainian specialists can offer, I can hardly think of any other place where people are so much used to. I don't know, getting some solutions for which you don't need to pay some royalty payments, for example, every month or every year after you hook up to some system. Let me explain. Um, like if you hook up to some data management system, you need to pay some royalty every year or every month, like license payments. But this attitude that the local IT specialists have in Ukraine, they're not really afraid to look under the hood and do some coding, do some extra coding, face some challenges, and by the end of the day, work out an open source solution for which our clients don't need to pay the licenses. And, paying licenses to such providers as, let's say, Microsoft, there ain't no cheap. And we obviously see that this is one of the advantages that our specialists from Ukraine can offer to, let's say, Western European market.
So you're in Scandinavian countries. We had the ambassador to Ukraine from Estonia on here earlier today, and he spoke about how the IT developers in Estonia are top notch, which we all know they are. Why not, why don't customers just go for IT developers in the Baltic states? They're closer. They're probably culturally a little bit more similar.
I'd say they still do go there, but the Baltic states, they're not that big. Well, Scandinavian countries are no big themselves either. But I'd say that Ukraine has a much bigger pool of specialists, much bigger pool of expertise, and let's say the headhunting. If you need to just find someone, a very specific specialist, I'd say that you have way more odds, that the odds to get the specialists are way higher in Ukraine than in the Baltic states, because the pool of the specialists is way bigger. And this is one of the advantages of Ukraine that I personally see, against the Baltic states.
But you mentioned this earlier before the interview about how, if you still want good talent, you got to pay. You get what you pay
Absolutely.
for. Would you be able to explain
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. Well, Alex, like this is one of my personal thoughts on the matter. I really like to be treated fairly myself, and in order to do that, I try to treat people fairly myself as well. And it's especially when we talk about some creative solutions that your employees, your team needs to come up with. People really need to feel like you care about them. And one of the ways to demonstrate this is obviously paying them the right salary. And for an IT specialist, it's really not a big problem, not that big of a problem to figure out what this person is worth on the market. And we're talking about the IT specialists that are global specialists. It's so easy to transfer money today. It's so easy to deliver your work when you're an IT specialist, when you just do some kind of coding or something. It's so easy to transmit it around the globe. So I'd say that, if you really want to have the good specialists, the people that will feel comfortable, that would really want to, put their soul, put their skill into something that they deliver, you got to pay them the right salary, I'd say. And otherwise, someone's gonna just steal them from you, and this is not what you want. Um, this is just my opinion on the matter.
What advice, what tips would you give a company that wants to work with a Ukrainian partner, not necessarily IT in the IT industry, but in any industry? What should they look for? What should they watch out for?
I'd say that one of my personal, one of the things that I personally look before committing myself to a relationship of a partnership, speaking about the business partnership, obviously, um, is whether I can trust somebody. And I'd say that, unfortunately, Ukraine has this reputation of a country where you have the corruption and, that where the rules don't usually apply. So, if you're just sitting somewhere and you're thinking that it would be a great idea to start a business in Ukraine, and me as a Ukrainian, obviously, I'm just giving you a thumbs up. But to get realistic, I would really uh, do my home assignment myself, meaning that I would not probably trust the reports by a third party. I would just travel to the location where you envision to have your business, to have your operations. Try to know some people, try to get acquainted with them. After you figure out that there's probably, someone who might, play a role of a partner in your business, try to figure out whether you can trust that guy. Just run a pilot project. Just take a trip to Italy together. See whether the words of that person match what this person thinks, what this person does. And you'll just get to know each other better. And I would say that, it's probably the trust that I, put, as a priority. And it works for every country, and Ukraine is not an exception in this case.
I want to ask you, as a Ukrainian successful business person living abroad, but you do business in Ukraine, how does it shed this, not even just reputation, but just the endemic corruption that, is prevalent?
Yeah, I have obviously these are just my personal thoughts, and appreciate your compliment on me being successful. I'm trying to stay humble, obviously have to, and one of the things is that I believe that one of the things that poses one of the biggest structural problems in the Ukrainian society is the lack of the appropriate role models. Judging by the example of Norway, where you have, on the one hand, you have those huge role models like Thor Heyerdahl or Roald Amundsen. Like the first guy is the one who crossed the Pacific on a handmade raft, and the other one was the first person to reach the South Pole. Those are big role models if you think of it. And when the young people relate to those role models, it kind of motivates them, to try risks, to learn, to see how those people achieved what they did. And obviously, what they did, they achieved that through hard work and learning. And then you have some small role models, like, for example, Norwegian athletes win a ton of gold medals every year. And those are like small, everyday examples that you can also relate to. So I believe that one of the things that we really need to think of in Ukraine is that what kind of role models does the younger generation see today? And I believe if we can figure out some big role models that are successful, that obviously, undoubtedly worked hard to get what they did and to be where they are, and in addition to that, if we can somehow foster this culture of mentorship, so that, like this local knowledge could get transmitted, where you live, the people that you hang out with, some of your colleagues, perhaps clients that are successful, more successful than you, who would want to mentor you. I believe that this would really help our country to boost up and, to, by the end of the day, yield this new generation of entrepreneurs, people that have this kind of a set of mind, that are eager to work, eager to take, quantifiable risks, not just go bluntly into the uncertainty. And I believe it's going to pay off.
My final question I want to ask you as an entrepreneur, would you say that people should not be afraid to fail? Obviously, nobody wants to fail, but if you want to be successful, you got to not be afraid to fail. Failure does happen, and you got to be prepared to fail and move on and follow through after fail. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Or if you want to elaborate, go ahead.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit. It's that perhaps it's not about what you do, it's who you are, that you should probably, relate yourself to. Like, what's your personality is all about. If it's one thing that you do and you kind of fame yourself on doing that, you believe that you're the best person in the world who does that, you really pride yourself, you feel good about doing this one thing, the next time you fail, it's going to really hurt. So probably, just I believe it's important to have the right relationship with the people, so that, when you fail, you still have some friends, some people that are with you, have the right set of your morals, so that, you just don't feel yourself terrible after you hit the ground. Because you really need to find, this kind of strength just to pick yourself up and, learn from your mistakes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Prisikar. Really appreciate it. It was a great interview. Really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex, and I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you. I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. I was speaking with Dima Prisikar. He is the general manager of Out, an IT development firm based in Oslo, Norway. You are watching UATV.